Here's how I would rank all 18 full-length novels that are currently out in the Cosmere, with a quick honorable mention to The Emperor's Soul. I think that's the best short story in the entire Cosmere, but I solely want to focus on ranking the big boys in this series, so let's get into it. There's going to have to be a bottom, so we're going to have to start at some point. I don't think this is a really bad book, but this is my least favorite book in the Cosmere, and that's going to be at number 18, The Sunlit Man. I was just super disappointed with the potential that was really ruined in this book. I thought that a particular character's arc was just completely wasted after what happened in the events of Wind and Truth. No spoilers, of course, in this video at all, so don't worry. I won't talk about those events, but this is going to have to come in at number 18, and I gave this a 3.25 out of 5. Number 17 is also an unpopular opinion in the world of the Cosmere. I understand that not everybody agrees with me on this, but at number 17, we're going to go with Warbreaker. This is a 3.5 out of 5 book for me. I felt that this was just very cringy and a little bit unnecessary. If this was not so highly impactful in the rest of the books of the Stormlight Archives, I probably would have DNF'd it, to be honest with you. At number 16, we have the first Mistborn book, and that is, of course, The Final Empire. I don't hate this book at all. I think it's a 3.5 out of 5. I just don't really love it as much as I love the rest of the Mistborn books that we're going to talk about in a little bit from here. I feel like this is just a little bit too clunky, a little bit too YA for me, and I think the rest of his books are just way more polished, so that's why it's coming in at number 16. Number 15, we have Isles of the Emberdark. This is a 4 out of 5 book for me, and I think that the artwork is actually a lot better than the prose itself. It feels a little bit too YA, and it feels like it's written for children, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely not for me, which is why it's going to be on the lower end of this list. At number 14, we have the first book in Mistborn Era 2, and that is The Alloy of Law. This is another 4 out of 5 book for me. It's really fast-paced, it's really fun, it's punchy. I love that Western outlaw vibe, but I think it's a little bit clunky at the end, which is why it didn't get a higher rating for me. Still a really good book, though. At number 13, we have Elantris. This is one of the most underrated books in the entire Cosmere, in my opinion. This is the very first published book in the Cosmere. I think I really appreciate all of the soul and novelty that Brandon Sanderson poured into this book. You could tell this was definitely his brainchild as he worked into the Stormlight Archives. I can see some really cool character connections and similarities between the two, and I really enjoy this. This is eventually going to be a series, but for now, I think book ones are just not as good as later books in the series. I prefer payoffs over setups, so for now it's coming in at number 13. At number 12, we have the second book in Mistborn Era 2, and that is Shadows of Self. This is another 4 out of 5 book. This is going to be the last of the 4 out of 5 books that I talk about here. I really enjoy the character development in here. I think Sanderson did a really good job at picking up the series when he didn't originally plan to write a series. If you're unfamiliar, the first book, Alloy of Law, was supposed to be a standalone, which is why it's quite fast-paced compared to the rest of the books in Mistborn Era 2 until the final one, but I still really enjoyed this one. It was a good reset on the universe, and this is why it's coming in at number 12. The rest of the books on this list, I think there is literally a gap in quality between the rest of them, but unpopular opinion, I do think at number 11, I'm going to have to go with The Hero of Ages. I did give this a 4.5 out of 5, so like I said, this is still a really good book, but I don't know, I didn't feel as emotionally impacted by the ending of this book as I did to other books in this series, but it is still a really solid entry into the universe, and that's why it's coming in at number 11. Number 10 is going to be its predecessor, and that is Well of Ascension. I really enjoyed the political intrigue in this a lot. It just gripped me a lot harder than any of the other Mistborn Era 1 books, and I know I am the black sheep here saying that I think that Well of Ascension is the best one, but I do think it is. It's a 4.5 out of 5 book for me, and that's why it's coming in at just barely the top 10 here. Number 9 and number 8 can be completely flipped depending on the day, but we're going to have to go with number 9, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This was a surprisingly really good romantasy. I love the ending here. I think it has one of the best worlds in the entire Cosmere universe, and I just love the character dynamic a lot. Number 8 is going to be Tress of the Emerald Sea. This is the highest ranked of the standalones as of right now. I think I just really enjoyed the context in which I read this. I was reading a lot of dark fantasy books at the time, and this one was just so much lighter and so much funnier, and I really appreciated that tonality shift. This is a 4.5 out of 5, but really depending on the day of the week that you ask me which book I like more between this and Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, it could completely vacillate. So for now, it's going to sit at number 8, but who knows, tomorrow it could be number 9. At number 7, we have The Bands of Mourning. This is the third book in Mistborn Era 2, and this is the very last of the 4.5 out of 5 ratings that I am giving for any of the Cosmere books, which means all the rest of these are absolute bangers. Anyways, I think that this book is really good. I really appreciate the emotional build-up that we get in this book. The world expansion, it's very clever. The pacing is a little bit better. I do like the ending a lot, and that's why this is coming in just barely below the top 5, but it's coming in at number 7. Number 6 is the first book in the Stormlight Archives. That is, of course, Way of Kings. I think this is one of the best book ones of all time, which is really difficult for me to not put in the top 5, but I like payoffs more than build-ups, but I think that this build-up was magnificent, and this is the book that made me fall in love with Sanderson's writing, so that's why it's going to come in at number 6. Number 5, we have The Lost Metal. This is the conclusion to Mistborn Era 2. This is my favorite of the Mistborn books. I think it's got the best tone overall. I really enjoy the payoffs here a lot. I did not expect to like this as much because I thought the rest of the books were good, but not great. This one, though, it's great, and it's coming in the top 5. Okay, the rest of these are going to be somewhat interchangeable, to be honest with you, because I think all of them are excellent books, but something's got to go in at number 4, and that's going to be Words of Radiance. I understand this is a lot of people's absolute favorite book of all time, the best sequel of all time, the favorite Sanderson book of all time, yada, yada, yada. I just think the first 400 pages are really dull, really boring, and clunky. I'm so sorry to Words of Radiance. This is still a perfect 5 out of 5 for me. I think the last 600 pages are absolute gas, but I just like the other books on this list a little bit more, so it's going to have to come in at number 4. Number 3 is going to be Rhythm of War. I think this has individually some of the best moments in the entire Stormlight Archive, but I think the way that we get to those moments is really clunky. I think that the flashbacks in this are completely unnecessary and they ruin the pacing of this book. However, I think Navani hard carries this book, and I love the real blend between science fiction and fantasy here, which is why this comes in at number 3. Number 2 might get me thrown out of the fandom, but it's going to have to be Wind and Truth. This is the conclusion to the first arc in the Stormlight Archives. I like this book a lot. I think as a reader, I enjoy books that take a little bit of a swing, and changing the parts to be 10 parts and putting a real time structure added a lot of tension to this series, and I thought that it was paced actually quite well. I didn't have a lot of problems with the pacing. I thought the interludes were way better. I thought the flashbacks were way better than some of the other books in this series, and I just think that if you go into this knowing it's not going to be an ending, you're going to like it a little bit more. I think a lot of people who read this on launch were very disappointed. I read this in a bubble of my own, and I was bliss-filled, and I really enjoyed it, but it's going to come in at number 2. Which means, finally, we have Oathbringer. This is the big daddy of them all because of, yes, Daddy Dalinar. He is my favorite character in this universe up until this point, until his son eventually surpasses him in Wind and Truth, but I love his arc here. I think, as a book, it has the best beginning and the best ending of any of the Sanderson books. The middle can get, I don't know, maybe a little bit slow, but for me, I'm very momentum based. So if you go really hard in the beginning, I'm just churning the wheels through the middle so that it doesn't feel as slow to other people. I really enjoy this book. I think it has really good flashbacks focusing on Dalinar. And again, I think that if you're going to rank any of the Sanderson books, why not rank them by the ending, the Sanderlanche, which is really the best part and why we read these books. And I think this has the best Sanderlanche, which is why it's my number 1 Cosmere book, and I would be shocked, frankly, if anything beat this in the future. Anyways, that's how I would rank all 18 of the full-length novels in the Cosmere so far, so drop in the comments what your favorite Cosmere books are, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more book content just like this.